God, this is heavy. Whew. Hi, my name is Elena Kostreva, and I'm a self-taught artist. And with being a self-taught artist, when we are going the non-traditional path of being an artist, oftentimes you have to find sources in your own way. I'm going to share the books that I have collected when I first started my journey of actually making the decision that I actually want to be an artist. As a self-taught artist, your journey is going to change, and I think it's interesting. The books that I purchased kind of show what I was interested in at the time and how like my interests have definitely changed. This was when I had discovered Jenna Rainey. She has a lot of YouTube videos, I believe she has a YouTube video channel, and watercolor was one of the things I gravitated towards, but I wasn't that good at. If you're interested in watercolor, I do believe that Jenna Rainey really has a very simplistic way of like breaking down how to work with watercolor and making it fun and easy to experiment with. The book itself, if you're interested, it breaks down like how like forms and lines, and it helps you like light to dark layering. So I feel that this is an actual really good book if you're a beginner and you're interested in watercolor. That will help you like guide through the actual steps of what to fully immerse yourself in watercolor. I feel this would be a really good introductory lesson for you, because also the book itself also, it kind of works as a class in the sense of she slowly works you into being able to complete like an actual final artwork. So if you want to kind of experiment to see if watercolor is something you want to work with, this could be a really good fun way to give yourself a challenge of working with watercolor for 30 days. At the end of the book, she gives you the opportunity to create your own artwork, your own masterpiece artwork, like a final artwork piece. I don't know how many ways I can say that are basically the same thing. For instance, here's an example. And then through every layer, she shows you like how to light to dark, and shows you how to do certain details. I believe her art style is more loose, which I was more interested in the watercolor aspect and thought loose abstract form would be an easy way to learn watercolor. Creating stylized animals, and in this I was interested in creating like animal characters and delving more in creating like animal illustrations in regards to making like characters for like children's book, because I do work as a preschool teacher, and I was interested in pursuing or investing in learning children's book illustrations and potentially writing my own children's book. I'm delving away from that now, but this is where that delves from. So creating stylized animals. They also break down how characters are actually built, and this can give you your own idea of how you want to start looking into character illustrations. And it breaks down like implementing emotions with characters, and it adds in composition and the actual storyline and the actual like creating the actual character. So I feel if you're interested in understanding kind of incorporating figure drawing with animal character building and kind of more of a book illustration path, I feel this could be a really good way to at least even just look at how characters are actually built in just like TV shows, and it just gives you an idea of like different styles of characters and ways for you to just start shifting of how like TV show character design is actually made to help you understand your own characters. So I think this could be a really good thing for even just if you're interested in making your own comic books, because it breaks down just like gesture, poses, face expressions, and like value, stylization, why certain, and like it even implements a chapter on TV shows and different styles and how the style of a character fully is part of like giving the character personality, and if you shift the style then it completely changes the actual character. This was also another book that I purchased when I first began drawing, or like wanting to learn to draw more seriously. It's called The Big Book of Realistic Drawing Secrets. It gives you exercises where it helps you start looking at drawing differently. And this one was helpful in that there was an exercise. It's a police car. This one was helpful because it has exercises of where you can start breaking away from like, because when we're first starting, it like breaks down drawing exercise that will force you to actually study what you're looking at and not just draw what you think the object is. Because when you first start learning how to draw, it does talk about how proportions you might struggle with your proportions because you're drawing what you think the item looks like because you see the item every day. So this book is definitely helpful in having drawing exercises that break down how you think you should draw. It shows you techniques in how you want to like different aspects of drawing that you want to implement in your own drawing. This book does have kind of lessons in it that show you how you can implement that, such as like shadow and not making the dark portraits or like too shiny, and how you can implement different tools or just like implement different ways of working with pencil and paper to create the look that you want. It shows you erasing techniques, tools, like give templates a try. It helps you to start learning how to do proportion. This book, if you're wanting just one book and learning how to draw, this is a good starting point that I also started with, where it can give you exercises to strengthen your skill set already, as well as it provides different ways of like drawing objects and giving you tips and tricks, and helps you get pointers on going around certain issues such as like if you develop shininess when you get too dark on portraits, like just wanting to know how to draw like an actual like realistic portrait. But I was definitely, so you can see like the kind of styles that I was interested in. I was first going towards creating a foundational art process in learning how to do watercolor, and then learning how to draw, because I feel like drawing and water and painting coincide together. In order to paint, you need to know how to draw. I really like this book because of the art style. So I would say if you're teaching yourself, like if you are self-taught, then I would definitely recommend looking into the kind of art style that you're interested in learning, and then grabbing the book that is in that style. So one of the ways I would do this is I would see an artist that has that style, or find what artist I'm already interested in and the style that I already like, or that I wished I could draw like them, and then I would see if they had a book already out there that I can learn from them. If you're also interested in learning atelier drawing styles, I really recommend Juliet Aristide's, which she helps you kind of goes through the figure drawing, the atelier version of like the atelier style. There's another teacher that also actually has a drawing class where she offers the atelier, and her classes are very detailed, because this kind of drawing style actually is very it's very systematic, but most of her videos are like short clips of her actual classes, and I took a class and it's very systematic because atelier is very focused on, it's like it's more about the process of drawing versus getting to the ultimate end of just finishing your product in like 30 or 1 hour. Even like completing a simple circle, shading a simple circle, it's really about like pacing yourself and really, it's almost like meditative. You're literally going millisecond by millisecond. Like, I think it is an aspect of the old Renaissance masters where they really had to study the same piece. I think it's called Brock's, but they had to like study the same piece, draw it over and over again until it was perfection. Stopping yourself from completing a piece, very meditative, and it forces you to just be in one with your art, because it's not about the end product. It's very meticulous. Getting an introductory where there's like gesture drawing, but she has exercises you in this book where you can start studying form and shading. The atelier drawing method of drawing is basically, it's about copying the masters, and it's not about duplicating their work, but it's about, by copying the masters, you're learning their techniques, you're learning the pressure they put in certain parts, the shading, and just like it's a method of learning how to draw by copying the masters. But it's not about duplicating it, it's a form of learning how to draw. In much the same way, I recently heard, I think it's in Hinduism or Buddhism, in music, they don't give them a sheet of paper with notes on it to learn a music instrument. They actually just play the instrument, and then the student plays the exact same thing. And so this is the same way, where you're just copying the master, and through copying the master, you're learning the actual tool, the actual skill, the actual technical side of drawing. This book, Landscape Painting, I purchased recently because I'm wanting to really learn landscape painting. And the thing about this book that I really love, I feel like if you're wanting to get into like plein air painting and just learning landscape painting, I personally I'm inspired to learn landscape painting because I'm inspired by Monet. Okay, but about this book, let's talk about this book. But this book really delves into the technical aspect of landscape painting in the sense of mass, color, composition. So that's what interested me, because honestly this book was a pretty penny, and that's what kind of deterred me from getting it, because it was a little bit on the spendy side. But it really delves into like composition and as well as like blocking out your landscape. It provides really good examples that you can look at in regards to like just inspiring you, and looking at examples of how technical aspects of artwork and painting within landscape painting, like give you an example of what to look for versus telling you all this information but you don't know how to implement it yourself. So it's good to have examples. So I think this book is really good because it showcases how you can implement the technical aspects of art into an actual, like in real life. Especially when you're self-taught in a course. Obviously the instructor provides you that, they give you all this information, and then they show you how they do it themselves, and then you're able to then experiment on your own painting, and then the instructor's there to give you pointers or to give you advice on what you're doing good, what you should do better. But with all being self-taught, you having one book on one subject, it's just more functioning as a self-taught artist to have one book that has everything. So that's why I had my eye on this, because not only does it just talk about composition and color, and I just like having a book that has all of it in one thing and how it can be implemented into the technique that I want to practice. So if you're into portrait study, or if you're currently wanting to focus on portrait study, I think these little books are really helpful as a self-taught artist or just a beginner, because then you can buy the books individually on what you're interested in. And that's the whole point with being self-taught, is you have the freedom to figure out where you want your journey to go. But I think with these, you can like literally read this in like a couple hours in a day, and then in the evening or the next day you can start implementing, or even like read a chapter a day and then start practicing the technique. Daily painting, because I was interested in acrylic painting, because it also like helps you to like if you don't have a daily practice, or if you have a hard time putting in your art in your daily life, like if you have a full-time job and it's easier for you. I mean, it's so easy to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna take this time after work to do this, but I feel like getting a book that's literally is a reminder for you to start implementing that into your daily life. And this can be, this is it, they have easy daily practices of where you can draw what's already in your household or in your apartment, but this gives you a way to practice painting daily. I would say, as a self-taught, if you're trying to teach yourself something, and not even an art, like think about like what are you interested in the subject. So for me, I really like European architecture, and I live in Seattle, and I love seeing, I feel like now it's really sad how modern architecture is really like illuminating, or basically eliminating, not illuminating, eliminating like the beautiful European style of architecture. Also, this came from the element of when a couple months ago I was into ateliers, so I was into like studying the masters and learning how to copy the masters. So that's another way of teaching yourself a certain style. You can literally just look at masters like Da Vinci and just study their actual art and start copy it to learn. It's not about making it, trying to create an illusion of where people can't decipher which one is the master's and which one is yours. It's about, if you at a point where you're like, oh, I've faked, I've like, oh, I'm like a magician and with a pencil, I feel like you've lost it. Like, because the point of copying the masters is to learn their technique, and if you're not learning anything from it and you're just copying and it's this like ego driven thing, then you've lost it. Because that's not what it's about. Copying the masters is about learning their technique, learning the amount of pressure they put on paper, and really just learning from their art. That I could just learn how to draw buildings and like the details, because my interest at that time was just being in the real world and taking interest in the European style like architecture that I saw just like walking around or walking to work. It kind of led me to take an interest in learning how to draw, and also architecture, like perspective drawing, and like that's all the fundamentals of drawing. And why not make the fundamentals something you actually want to learn how, like starting to implement perspective drawing in the real world. But it all comes from getting the knowledge first. So I got buildings and architecture forms, and then sketching like an artist, or artist sketching like an architect, and then sketch like an architect again. I don't know the, oh yeah, advanced techniques. But yeah, these just have point perspective, so I think these would be super helpful for just if you have a hard time understanding perspective. With landscape painting, this is why I got it, because I was interested in landscape painting, but then I was also interested in architecture, and I really wanted to understand, before drawing or painting the landscape, you have to understand perspective, and what better way to learn how to do perspective drawing or drawing buildings than by knowing how to draw like an architect. So those are those, because it actually shows how a architect can start. They start drawing and showing the process of actually drawing a building. Find a way to learn how to dissect forms of a building, and from an understanding what forms actually create buildings. I know that's funny to hear myself say that, because it's like, what forms like a literal square? Understanding the process of actually drawing, simplifying buildings from start to finish like an architect. And then obviously I was into pen and ink drawing because I wanted to learn how to do like architecture, like simple pencil, pen and ink drawings. This is super helpful because it shows you different techniques using the pen, different hatchings that you can use. And like with anything, you can't become an artist without knowing how to figure draw or draw the figure. It delves into the blocking. I would recommend learning gesture drawing before delving into figure drawing. But that's also the con about being self-taught, is when you're taking a course, the instructor is able to lead you into like a step-by-step process where you start developing one skill onto the next one, onto the next one. But that's the benefit of taking a course, or you don't even have to go to art school. You can just take a course, and then the course can lead you to breaking down the process. Like if you can find a course that's on figure drawing, the best instructor will then break down how you get to a figure drawing, because obviously, yes, you can start figure drawing, but obviously the natural aspect is you learn from gesture drawing, and then it leads you to learning more complex figure drawing. But this is definitely more academic drawing art, in the sense of it's teaching you how, like, using measurements. Oh, it does go into understanding gesture, but it mostly focuses on completed pieces and not the actual process. I think this one I bought, but then never really completed it because I saw that the one downfall of this figure drawing book is that it already shows completed pieces, and it doesn't actually show you the process of where you can start. Like, it talks about the block in, but it's showing like already completed pieces. So it's really difficult as a when you're teaching yourself this. I feel like figure drawing, you definitely need like either an online course or find a class that's the kind of figure drawing that you're wanting to learn. Because I don't know if figure drawing from a book is the best way to learn in regards to anatomy. It's really good to learning the anatomy and learning about the human body, but I feel to fully learn how to figure draw, investing in an actual class, either locally or online, is best suited. I mean, much the same way with portrait drawing, I think this book is, I would recommend this one that I got more than these two, because again, with being self-taught, you're wanting to see the process, and then you're experimenting and you're kind of like canceling out your own mistakes, and you're needing to see the process. So like with this one, he does show the process of how he does some portraits, but then the rest half of the book is just showing him examples of finished work. But he does show from beginning to end how his sketch looks like and how you can start implementing, and he shows a few examples. I bought this because I really love the artist, and I feel like if you need a portrait study book, I feel this would be a really good book for you to implement into your bookshelf. This kind of just has, like, it's like, for instance, it says drawing step by step, but then like it's kind of, and then gesture, it shows an example of gesture, and then the final piece, but that's not gesture. So it does show like proportions, but honestly you can find that proportions and like the technical part of portrait study you can find anywhere. Like, I'm glad they added it, but I mean, this is like one of the few pages where it actually shows the process. But even then, it's not really showing the process. It's showing like this is already complete. So I don't understand how that's a step-by-step of drawing the eye. Like, these are already completed pieces. So it's not really teaching anything. It's just like formulating another artist's knowledge into a book. Watercolor portraits. This is by Mario Andre Robinson. But I got this because I found him on YouTube, and I really like his style, and I saw that he had a book, and I think he had like a course, but I couldn't afford it at the time. So the second best thing is to buy a book. And I would definitely recommend this because he definitely goes through, he's very detail orientated in like his process from start to finish, because he really delves into like the type of washes that you need. He talks about like exploring the subject and like composition, and he's very detail oriented. Like, I think I watched a YouTube video and he's just as detailed in his book about his process and how he paints, just as much as he explains his process in video form. These are some books that I've purchased along my artistic journey, and I hope me pointing out how some books have been helpful and how some books haven't been helpful helps you to possibly purchase or to accumulate your own art library.